Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Wild Garden, and in this video I want you guys to stick around because I'm going to be talking to you about the 5 essential plants that you should be putting in your wildlife pond if you are looking to maximise its potential for biodiversity. So without further ado, let's get started. I should just say guys, before we go on, very quickly, if you are looking to buy plants from the Wild Garden online shop, we now have all the pond plants in stock. So that's all the plants I'm going to be talking about today, and many more, including your fleece and liner. So if you're looking to create a wildlife pond at the moment, head over to the wildgarden.com online shop, where you can of course buy all of these plants and some of the baskets and everything else I'm going to be talking about today. So before we talk about this little beauty in my hand here, I probably should say guys that obviously these are 5 essential plants that I consider to be an important part of a wildlife pond, and I include every single one of these plants in every single pond that I make around the UK. So, and for those of you that are interested, obviously I do create ponds and these habitats along with insect hotels and this front wildlife garden that I'm in. And I should say, if you haven't seen already on the channel guys, go to the home page and click on playlist, go to my garden, where I've got loads of videos on this front wildlife garden. I'm here in my own front garden. I've created 20 square meters, including a formal wildlife pond right beneath my feet, which I'm going to be planting up imminently as soon as I've finished this video for you guys. So check that out, another full planting video to come on this formal wildlife pond, which is slightly different to my normal wildlife ponds in terms of its design, but I think you guys will find it quite interesting. I'm obviously trying to appeal to a wider audience in terms of perhaps the more traditional gardeners, that you can still have formality along with a wildlife friendly garden. So yes, lots and lots of videos on this front garden, and the full creational video to come once I've finished planting it today. So stay tuned, more to come on that one. And obviously don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already guys, and hit that notification bell, then you will get notified every single time I post a video, which is on a Wednesday and a Sunday at 6 PM. So make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out. Loads of cool stuff for you guys to come. Anyway, let's crack on with the first option. Now this is an absolute essential. It might look like a giant chive, but it is actually called hard rush, and the reason it's called hard rush is because there are 2 types of rush that are very similar that I plant within the ponds that I build around the UK, and they are hard rush and soft rush, and they get their name because the hard rush has a rigid solid stem, and the soft rush, if you pick it, has a hollow stem in the middle, so it's more like a chive if you like. But hard rush is great for 2 reasons. Now the first one is it is pretty much evergreen, so it will provide cover all year round. So right through the winter time it provides a bit of vegetation, bit of something to look at, but also cover for any frogs that might be hunting through in the margins of the pond, for insects through the autumn and the winter time. And it also creates lots and lots of habitat for and cover for birds as well that might be visiting your front garden. So it's really good in that sense, but also, and possibly more importantly, it's great as emergent vegetation coming out of the water, or the water's edge, which is great for 2 reasons: dragonflies and damselflies. Now these guys, when they've when they've been in the pond for some of the bigger dragonflies up to 2 to 3 years as a nymph, they will then emerge as a little nymph, crawl up one of these stems, and quite often you can find the exoskeletons, the spent shells if you like, where they've then hatched out into the full adult damselfly or dragonfly. So, and it's really important for them to be able to crawl up these stems and rest there while they pump their wings up before they can fly off. Obviously at this point they're very liable for predation because they are effectively motionless, so a lot of them will succumb to birds flying in, for example, a nice juicy snack for many a bird. But yes, quite often you'll find the exoskeletons on these reeds, and they're a brilliant plant for that. So number 1, hard rush. So number 2, and one that you should really be looking to plant around the margins of your pond, are things such as this fringed water lily. Now I have covered in other videos the purpose for having lilies in a pond, but basically the fringed water lily is a really good option because A, it's native to the UK, which I should say all these plants are, but B, it also creates a lot of water surface coverage. You want to aim for 60 to 70% of water surface coverage within a wildlife pond, because then that will keep the water cool and enable you to combat possible blanket weed issues that you may have. And obviously check out previous videos I've made on blanket weed, which I'll put a link to at the end of this one, where you can have a few issues with algal blooms. This is a really good way of combating them, and keeping pond water cool is very important, particularly in a formal pond like this or a small wildlife pond where you haven't got a massive body of water. It can warm up very quickly, and then it can have the likelihood of an algal bloom, so it can be a bit of a problem. But fringe water lily, great at preventing that, or helping to prevent that, should I say. And they're a really good plant, and obviously when they flower they have a lovely yellow flower, which is great, and it's very attractive for a lot of insects. So a fringe water lily is a great one. Only has a lovely small leaf, but it is great. And in front of me here, while we're on lilies, I've got a couple of water lilies here which are available now on the online shop, which do come in a bigger 3 litre pot, as you can see, and these ones can actually stay in their pot. They're a really good plant for creating surface coverage again. And this one is a lovely one called Nymphaea mailer, which isn't actually a native, but it's again very attractive to insects. The white water lily we do have as well in stock now, which is actually a native, has a bigger leaf like this one, and these can get pretty big. So yes, it'll be interesting to see just how much water surface coverage we get with these lilies. But the fringe water lily, really fantastic plant, as I say, and one you definitely should have in your pond. So absolutely essential, I think. And the great thing is about it is it grows, spreads by runners. So if you plant it in the pond in the way that I do, and you put it in the subsoil, it will then sort of spread by runners, and it'll just send up leaves all around the pond. So absolutely fantastic, and one that I would highly recommend for your wildlife pond. So number 3, and I should say guys, these are all bought from the Wild Your Garden online shop. I actually ordered them to myself, so gives you an idea of the quality of the plants you can expect to have. These are in a 1 litre container, so really good for going in the subsoil in your pond, or in baskets, as I will be doing with this pond. And as I say guys, we've got all sorts of baskets available on the online shop now, so if you have got a formal pond and you're looking to plant some of these plants in baskets, they'll fit quite nicely. We do have obviously smaller plants as well. We have 9 centimetre potted plants, which are a bit smaller than this, and we have bigger 2-3 litre plants, depending on your size of pond and your budget. But number 3, Brooklime, absolutely essential. It has a gorgeous little blue flower, and it's very attractive for smaller pollinated insects, things like hoverflies in particular. But what is really good about this pond, and it wants to go right on the margin of a pond, along with the hard rush, because they love it damp, they love it really wet, is that it will create a lovely kind of creeping carpet, if you like, over the surface of the water. So again, adding shade, providing cover for tadpoles and lots of other invertebrates. And the brilliant thing about this plant, and my favourite point, is that it's actually used by newts. So the common newt that we get here, or the smooth newt in particular, because the leaves are very soft and kind of malleable, the newts will lay an individual egg on the underside of the leaf, and then fold the leaf over and kind of like sort of glue it together, if you like. So it's absolutely brilliant. It protects the egg, and it means that these are essential around the margins of a pond. They've got to be on the edge, because then obviously the egg can hatch out into the little newt before it then obviously develops into the full-size newt in time. So Brooklime, a really good plant for that. Some other plants that are good in that sense are things like water mint and water forget-me-not as well. They're very soft leaves, so really good. But Brooklime goes in every single pond that I plant, and I highly recommend you get some in your own wildlife pond. So number 4, and one of my absolute favourites, is this purple loosestrife. Now, for those of you watching in the States, you're probably screaming out now going, no, it's non-native and it's invasive. And yes, I realise that in the States it is classed as an invasive species because it can inhabit damp ground very easily and create massive blocks of vegetation, which of course can smother out a lot of other plants if you're not careful. So can be a bit of a problem in the wrong situation, I appreciate that, but it's not classed as invasive here in the UK, and it's one that I plant around every single pond that I make. It will grow to 4, 5, even 6 feet in really fertile ground, and it's absolutely just a tower of purple colour that is wonderful for our pollinating insects mid-season. So it'll be flowering kind of later on into June, and then into usually early July right the way through August as well, so really good for midsummer nectar and pollen, and a lot of butterflies use it, a lot of bees, a lot of other insects use it. It's just an absolute essential plant, one of the best pollinator plants you can put around the margins of a wildlife pond, and certainly one that I wouldn't even dream of not including in my pond plants list. But obviously, like I say, I appreciate it's classed as an invasive species in the US, but here in the UK, absolutely recommend it. I would say, if it's depending on the aspect of your pond, I would always plant towards the back or the furthest side away, because obviously it can get quite tall and then cast a bit of shade onto the pond. So architecturally it will get tall, like I say, and leave it through the winter time, because in the winter time a lot of the birds, such as our goldfinches, chaffinches and other seed-eating birds, will actually eat the seeds of the purple loosestrife if it's left. So don't just cut it back when it's finished flowering, and it's a really, really brilliant plant, and one you should definitely include within your wildlife pond. So number 5, and I've actually saved the best till last. Now this might not look like much, but this stuff is absolutely the essential ingredient of any wildlife pond. If you only take one plant from this video, use this stuff, and this is Hornwort, and this is one of the several oxygenating plants that you can get for a pond. The amount of times people ask me on YouTube and social media, don't you have any filtration systems? Where's the pump? How are you going to keep it clear? How are you going to stop it going stagnant? This is your answer. Oxygenating plants such as this Hornwort is absolutely brilliant, and the best bit about it is you can just chuck it in, it'll spread like crazy, it'll create these big mats of vegetation, and it will provide cover for a lot of smaller invertebrates within the pond to give them some security. B, it will also physically fizz with oxygen in the summer months. Once it gets warmer, which it is doing now, it'll start to spread, and these things just fizz with oxygen. So these are actually the natural aerators, if you like. You don't need a pump at all. You can just literally chuck it in your pond and it will just grow. It actually does very well in semi-shade as well, so you don't necessarily have to have a pond in full sun. This stuff will absolutely spread in a shady setting, so it's really, really vital. A lot of times things like ovipositing dragonflies will lay their eggs, things such as the broad-bodied chasers, which I've filmed before, will lay their eggs on the top of this plant or kind of within the vegetation. A lot of damselflies will as well, so it's a great kind of, it's got lots of nooks and crannies for the larvae to emerge and stay safe within while they develop. So it's a really good plant for providing cover, and absolutely, first and foremost, it is the oxygenator. That is the most essential plant within your pond, and it will stop any kind of water body going murky. It will keep it all clear, and it really is a fantastic plant. So I cannot tell you guys enough to get one of these or a bunch of these within your pond. Now, as to how much you need, obviously if you're looking to make a wildlife pond, drop us an email, enquiries@wildyourgarden.com. We'll be happy to help, happy to advise, depending on the size of your pond. We obviously sell these in bunches of 5. This is just a bit that I've taken from this pond that I put in a few weeks ago, just to show you guys, but it really is a fabulous plant, and absolutely, if you don't have this in your pond, it will not work. It will go stagnant, and it will just smell awful, and probably go a greeny colour as well. It's great at clearing the pond as well, so it's absolutely fantastic for that. If your pond, this pond was quite murky when I first did it, and it was sort of going a little bit green, I put this in and within a matter of days it had cleared. So it's absolutely wonderful, can't recommend it enough. So Hornwort is my plant number 5, and that sums up my top 5 essential plants for a wildlife pond, guys. Obviously, if you didn't get the message already, we are now selling all the pond plants. I know so many of you have been in touch over recent weeks saying, when can I order my plants for my pond? And we are now selling them on the online shop. So that's everything from the marginals to the lilies to the oxygenators. All the plants that I've spoken about today are now available on the online shop. So go over to wildyourgarden.com and start ordering yours and get your little mini wildlife pond springing into life. So yes, I hope this video has inspired you guys to perhaps create a wildlife pond. I hope it's helped those of you that are looking to buy plants for your pond. And obviously these are just 5 of the top plants. I would say they are probably almost the 5 most important, but there are of course many species which you can include, which will help wildlife in your own pond and create a fabulous little habitat. So stick around, guys. As I say, another video to come on the planting of this wildlife pond very soon, and many more videos on all the ways in which you can help wildlife in videos to come. Thanks for watching. I'll see you soon. you.